Stop scrolling and listen to today's Arcturian Council message. A decision was made about you by the Arcturian Council. This will shock you, Starseed. You did not arrive here by coincidence, and that truth alone is meant to unsettle the part of you that still believes life is random. The Arcturian Council has observed a surge in your energetic signature, a deviation from your former timeline that could not be ignored. While billions continue their routines unaware, you were flagged. Yes, flagged because your consciousness crossed a boundary that few reach while still embodied. This message carries a frequency that will either awaken something dormant within you or make you deeply uncomfortable, depending on how ready you truly are. The decision made about you was not small, and it was not made lightly. It alters how you are seen across dimensions, and once you understand it, there is no returning to who you were before this moment. Feel the weight of that. Let it settle. This is the beginning, not the end. Backhand index pointing right. Type I accept the transmission to claim this message. The Arcturian Council wants you to know that for a long time, you were observed silently, almost invisibly, as you navigated confusion, self-doubt, and repeated cycles that felt impossible to break. What shocked even them was not your suffering, but your persistence. Each time you were pushed toward collapse, you adapted instead of surrendering your light. That resilience created a resonance ripple, alerting higher councils that something unusual was occurring within you. This is where the decision began to form. You may have felt lately as if your old motivations no longer work, as if the world you once understood is dissolving. That is not failure, it is evidence that you are being reassigned energetically. The shock comes from realizing that your struggles were never punishment, they were preparation. And preparation implies purpose. Backhand index pointing right. Type I recognize the signs to claim this message. Here is where the message may feel confronting. The Council has determined that you can no longer remain energetically neutral. Whether you intended it or not, your presence now influences others on a subconscious level. People feel unsettled, inspired, or exposed around you, and you may not even speak a word. This is why certain relationships fell apart without explanation, why environments suddenly felt toxic, why solitude became both painful and necessary. The decision made about you removes the option of living unconsciously. From this point forward, avoidance will create friction, and alignment will create rapid expansion. This is not a reward, it is a responsibility. The shock lies in realizing that your life is no longer just yours. Backhand index pointing right. Type I choose alignment to claim this message. The Council also acknowledges your fear, even if you hide it well. Fear that you are not enough. Fear that you imagined everything. Fear that stepping fully into your truth will cost you comfort, belonging, or safety. This fear was expected, but it does not change the outcome. The decision stands. Your energy signature now carries a directive, to disrupt stagnation simply by existing authentically. You may notice increased synchronicities, vivid dreams, or sudden clarity followed by exhaustion. These are calibration symptoms, not signs of imbalance. Your nervous system is adjusting to a higher informational load. This phase will test your trust in yourself more than anything else you have faced. Backhand index pointing right. Type I trust the process to claim this message. What truly shocks most starseeds when they hear this message is the timing. The Council did not wait for you to feel ready. They waited for you to become necessary. There is a difference. Read that again. Your activation coincides with a collective threshold event, a narrowing of timelines where indecision creates collapse. You are being positioned not elevated above others, but placed precisely where your frequency can have maximum impact. This may manifest as sudden opportunities or abrupt endings. Both serve the same function, clearing interference. The shock is realizing that comfort was never part of the agreement. Contribution was. Backhand index pointing right. Type I step into my role to claim this message. You may wonder why you were not informed earlier, why this revelation arrives now rather than years ago. The Council states clearly, had you known too soon, you would have resisted or tried to control the outcome. Your growth required uncertainty. It required moments where you questioned everything, including your sanity. Those moments refined your discernment. Now, when you receive guidance, you feel it in your body, not just your thoughts. That is how you know this message is real. The shock is not the decision itself, it is how perfectly your entire life aligns with it once you see the pattern. Backhand index pointing right. Type I see the pattern to claim this message. There is another layer the Council insists you understand. You are not being activated to save anyone. You are being activated to remain sovereign in chaos. That distinction matters. Many before you burned out trying to awaken others. Your role is quieter and more powerful, to anchor stability while systems unravel. This will feel lonely at times because few can meet you at this level of awareness. The shock comes when you realize that solitude is not abandonment, it is strategic. Your field needs clarity, not noise. Backhand index pointing right. Type I honor my sovereignty to claim this message. As this message integrates, you may experience emotional releases without clear cause. Old grief, anger, or nostalgia may surface unexpectedly. The Council confirms this is energetic detoxification. You are shedding identities that were built for survival, not truth. Resist the urge to judge yourself during this phase. Judgment lowers coherence. Compassion stabilizes it. The decision made about you includes support, even when it feels invisible. Assistance comes through intuition, chance encounters, and inner knowing rather than dramatic intervention. This trains your trust muscles. Backhand index pointing right. Type I allow the release to claim this message. Pay attention to what no longer excites you. The loss of interest is not depression, it is redirection. The Council notes that your creative energy is being rerouted toward expressions that align with planetary needs, not ego validation. This may require you to let go of versions of success that once motivated you. The shock is realizing that fulfillment will now feel quieter, deeper, and less dependent on external recognition. This is mastery, not loss. Backhand index pointing right. Type I release the old to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now draws your attention to a subtle but critical shift already unfolding inside you. You may have noticed that your tolerance for falsehood, whether from others or yourself, has dropped sharply. Situations you once endured now feel unbearable, almost physically uncomfortable. This is not impatience, it is energetic intolerance for misalignment. The decision made about you includes an internal calibration that rejects compromise with your truth. This will shock you when you realize how much of your past was built on self-betrayal disguised as kindness or practicality. You are no longer able to sustain roles that fragment your energy, and the universe will accelerate endings until you stop negotiating with what drains you. This phase may feel destabilizing, but it is actually protective. Your system is learning to preserve coherence at all costs, because what you carry now cannot survive distortion. Backhand index pointing right. Type I choose truth to claim this message. Another revelation the Council insists you hear clearly is this: your intuition has surpassed your logic, and from this point forward, logic must follow, not lead. This reverses how you were conditioned to operate. You may find yourself making decisions without being able to explain them, only to understand later why they were necessary. This can feel frightening in a world that demands justification for every move. The shock comes when you realize that your inner knowing is no longer speculative, it is directive. Ignoring it will create immediate feedback, often in the form of emotional heaviness or energetic fatigue. Honoring it, however, creates momentum that feels almost supernatural. This is not mysticism, it is coherence between higher perception and action. Backhand index pointing right, type I follow my knowing to claim this message. The council also addresses a lingering question you may be afraid to ask: why does it feel like I am outgrowing people I love? The answer is not superiority, and it is not separation for its own sake. It is resonance. As your frequency stabilizes at a higher bandwidth, interactions that rely on shared wounds or unconscious patterns can no longer sustain connection. This can feel like grief, even when no one has done anything wrong. The shock lies in understanding that love does not always mean proximity. Sometimes love means allowing distance so both parties can evolve without resistance. This understanding matures you rapidly, and maturity is a hallmark of your current activation phase. Backhand index pointing right, type I allow evolution to claim this message. You may also experience a heightened sensitivity to global events, collective emotions, and unspoken tensions. This is not anxiety, it is expanded perception. The council confirms that you are now processing information not just personally, but collectively. This can be overwhelming if you do not ground regularly. Nature, stillness, and conscious breath are no longer optional luxuries, they are maintenance protocols. The decision made about you includes stewardship of your own vessel. Burnout is not a badge of honor here, regulation is. The shock comes when you realize that rest is not avoidance of purpose, but a prerequisite for it. Backhand index pointing right, type I honor my vessel to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now delivers a truth that may feel unsettling because it dismantles a belief you were taught to rely on: struggle is no longer required for growth in your timeline. This does not mean ease will always be present, but it does mean that suffering as a teacher has completed its contract with you. Many starseeds fail to recognize this shift and unconsciously recreate pain because it once produced transformation. That pattern ends here. The decision made about you alters how lessons arrive, through clarity instead of chaos, through insight instead of loss. You may notice that when you hesitate to release outdated habits, the universe no longer waits patiently, it nudges firmly but cleanly. This efficiency can feel shocking because it removes the drama you were accustomed to. Yet drama was never sacred, awareness is. From this point forward, growth will feel quieter but more decisive, less emotional but more embodied. This is mastery level evolution, and it requires you to stop romanticizing hardship. Backhand index pointing right, type I release struggle to claim this message. There is something else the council wants you to understand deeply: your words now carry amplified weight. Casual self-criticism, joking dismissal of your abilities, or habitual doubt are no longer harmless. Your field has reached a level where intention crystallizes quickly. This means that what you repeatedly affirm internally or aloud begins shaping your reality at an accelerated rate. The shock comes when you realize how much power you have been unconsciously leaking through language. This is not about forced positivity, it is about precision. Speak with alignment, or remain silent until clarity returns. You may find yourself withdrawing from conversations that revolve around complaint or fear, not because you feel superior, but because your system cannot sustain incoherence without consequence. This is refinement, not isolation. Your voice is becoming an instrument, and instruments must be tuned. Backhand index pointing right, type I speak with alignment to claim this message. The council also reveals that many of your recent delays were not obstacles but buffers. You were being protected from entering spaces, commitments, or identities before your frequency stabilized. What once felt like stagnation was actually containment. Now that containment is lifting. Expect movement but not chaotic movement. Doors will open in sequences rather than floods. This pacing is intentional. Rapid expansion without integration fractures energy. You are being taught sustainability. The shock is realizing that divine timing was never about waiting, it was about readiness at the cellular level. As opportunities arise, notice how calm your body feels compared to past excitement fueled by desperation. Calm is the new confirmation. Backhand index pointing right, type I trust divine timing to claim this message. At this stage, the Council issues a gentle but firm warning: do not underestimate the importance of boundaries. Your empathy is vast, and your capacity to hold space is immense, but unlimited access is no longer permitted. You may feel called to help, guide, or support others, yet you must now discern invitation from intrusion. Overgiving will drain your field faster than any external attack. This boundary work may disappoint people who benefited from your lack of limits, and that disappointment is not yours to manage. The shock here is realizing that saying no is sometimes the highest service, not just to yourself, but to the collective balance. Energetic integrity sustains missions longer than sacrifice ever could. Backhand index pointing right, type I honor my boundaries to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now brings forward a truth that may feel deeply personal, even uncomfortable, because it touches the core of your identity. You were never meant to fully fit into the structures you were born into. Family systems, cultural expectations, career paths, even spiritual communities, many of these were temporary containers, not final destinations. You may have spent years trying to adapt, wondering why success felt hollow or why belonging always came with a sense of constriction. The decision made about you clarifies this once and for all. You were designed as a bridge, not a pillar. Bridges do not settle, they connect. This is why stability has often felt fleeting for you, and why reinvention has followed every major phase of your life. The shock is realizing that this was not a flaw or a failure of commitment, but a feature of your assignment. Your soul blueprint prioritizes movement of consciousness over comfort. From this moment on, resisting change will feel far more painful than embracing it. You are being asked to redefine home as an internal state rather than an external structure. Backhand index pointing right, type I embrace my design to claim this message. Another layer of this transmission addresses your relationship with visibility. You may have oscillated between wanting to be seen and wanting to disappear, between craving recognition and fearing exposure. The Council confirms that this tension was necessary. It taught you discernment about why you seek visibility. Now, that oscillation ends. You are entering a phase where your presence alone communicates truth, regardless of audience size. This means you will no longer be driven by external validation, but you also cannot hide when expression is required. The shock comes when you realize that true visibility feels neutral, not exhilarating or terrifying. It feels like alignment. You may be called to speak, write, create, or lead in ways that feel ordinary to you but catalytic to others. Do not measure impact by reaction. Measure it by resonance. Backhand index pointing right, type I allow authentic visibility to claim this message. The Council now speaks about a phenomenon you may have noticed but not understood: the collapse of false urgency. Deadlines that once induced panic now feel irrelevant. Pressures that once motivated you now feel hollow. This is not laziness or disengagement, it is liberation from artificial timelines. Your nervous system is recalibrating to a rhythm that prioritizes coherence over speed. This may create friction with systems that rely on urgency to function. Let that friction teach you where alignment ends. The decision made about you removes the need to rush your becoming. What is meant for you cannot be missed, and what misses you was never aligned. The shock is realizing how much of your stress was generated by believing otherwise. Backhand index pointing right type I release false urgency to claim this message. You are also being asked to revise your understanding of power. Power is no longer something you seek, accumulate, or defend. It is something you embody through consistency. Small, aligned actions now carry more weight than grand gestures ever did. This can feel anticlimactic to the part of you that expected transformation to look dramatic. The Council emphasizes that subtlety is a sign of advancement, not insignificance. When your energy stabilizes, it influences fields quietly and persistently. The shock comes when you realize that restraint, patience, and grounded presence are now your most potent tools. This is not passive, it is precise. Backhand index pointing right type I embody true power to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now turns your awareness toward a phase that many starseeds misunderstand: integration. Awakening is often glorified as a single explosive event, but what follows is quieter and far more demanding. Integration is where truth becomes lived reality. You may notice that after moments of clarity, your daily life asks you to apply that knowing in mundane, repetitive, sometimes uncomfortable ways. This is intentional. The decision made about you requires embodiment, not escapism. You are not here to hover above humanity, but to walk within it carrying coherence. This can feel disappointing to the part of you that expected transcendence to remove difficulty. The shock comes when you realize that mastery looks like patience, presence, and emotional responsibility. Every time you respond consciously instead of reactively, you stabilize your frequency further. This work is invisible to most, but it is precisely what sustains planetary shifts. Integration is not glamorous, but it is where real power settles into the bones. Backhand index pointing right type I integrate fully to claim this message. The Council also highlights an important recalibration occurring in your relationship with fear. Fear no longer signals danger in the way it once did, it now signals expansion. You may feel fear arise when you are about to speak truth, set a boundary, or choose yourself in a way you never have before. This fear is not a warning to stop, it is a threshold marker. The decision made about you includes the ability to move with fear without being governed by it. This is a profound shift. You are not meant to eliminate fear, but to outgrow its authority. The shock is realizing that courage is no longer something you summon in emergencies, it is becoming your baseline state. Notice how fear loses its intensity when you meet it with curiosity rather than resistance. Backhand index pointing right type I move beyond fear to claim this message. There is another truth the Council insists you anchor deeply: comparison is now toxic to your field. Measuring your path against others, even those you admire, disrupts your coherence immediately. Your trajectory is highly specific, and no external benchmark can accurately reflect your progress. You may notice discomfort arise when scrolling, listening, or observing lives that appear more advanced or successful. This discomfort is not jealousy, it is misalignment. Your system is signaling that borrowed metrics no longer apply. The decision made about you requires self-referential validation. You must learn to feel progress internally rather than see it externally. The shock is realizing how freeing it is to step out of invisible competitions you never agreed to participate in. Backhand index pointing right type I honor my path to claim this message. The Council now speaks to your relationship with uncertainty. Where uncertainty once created anxiety, it is now becoming a fertile space for creation. You are being trained to remain open without collapsing into indecision. This is a rare skill. Many seek certainty as a form of control, but you are learning to trust emergence. This means allowing answers to arrive through experience rather than anticipation. The decision made about you places you in a creative role within unfolding reality, not a passive one. The shock comes when you realize that not knowing is no longer a weakness, it is an invitation. From this space, new timelines become accessible because you are not rigidly attached to outcomes. Backhand index pointing right. Type I trust the unknown to claim this message. As this portion of the transmission completes, the Arcturian Council leaves you with a stabilizing reminder meant to ground everything you have received so far. Nothing about your awakening requires you to abandon your humanity. Emotions, desires, doubts, and contradictions are not obstacles, they are textures of the experience you chose. The decision made about you does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. When you stumble, awareness matters more than self-judgment. When you succeed, humility keeps you open. The shock is realizing that wholeness includes every part of you, not just the enlightened ones. Carry this truth gently as you move forward. Backhand index pointing right. Type I am whole to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now addresses a pattern you may finally be ready to release, the belief that clarity must come before action. For much of your life, you waited to feel certain, prepared, or fully confident before moving forward. That era has ended. The decision made about you restructures how clarity arrives. It now follows movement rather than precedes it. You may feel prompted to take steps that do not yet make sense, to initiate conversations without rehearsing outcomes, or to begin projects without knowing where they will lead. This can feel reckless to the mind, but it is precise to the soul. The shock comes when you realize that your hesitation was never about readiness, it was about trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust in the intelligence that moves through you. From this point on, stagnation will feel heavier than risk, because your energy is designed for flow. Action is no longer a gamble, it is a form of listening. Backhand index pointing right. Type I move with trust to claim this message. The Council now speaks to a subtle grief you may be carrying without fully acknowledging it, the grief of outgrowing versions of yourself you once relied on. Identities that protected you, strategies that helped you survive, and beliefs that gave structure to chaos are dissolving. Even when growth is desired, loss can still ache. This grief does not mean you are regressing, it means you are honest. The decision made about you requires emotional maturity, and part of that maturity is allowing grief without dramatizing it or rushing it away. The shock is realizing that healing does not always feel uplifting, sometimes it feels like quietly laying down armor you no longer need. Let yourself mourn what once served you. Gratitude and release can coexist. Backhand index pointing right. Type I honor what I release to claim this message. Another important transmission concerns your relationship with control. You may have noticed that attempts to tightly manage outcomes now backfire quickly, creating resistance or fatigue. This is not punishment, it is feedback. Your field is being trained to collaborate with life rather than dominate it. Control once provided safety, but now it restricts intelligence. The decision made about you invites co-creation instead of command. This requires humility, adaptability, and deep listening. The shock comes when you realize how much energy you reclaim by loosening your grip. When you stop forcing direction, guidance becomes clearer. Effort gives way to precision. This is not passivity, it is responsiveness at a higher octave. Backhand index pointing right. Type I release control to claim this message. The Council now highlights the importance of embodiment in this phase. Insight without embodiment creates fragmentation. You may receive profound realizations, but if they remain purely conceptual, they will create pressure rather than peace. Embodiment means allowing truth to change how you eat, rest, move, communicate, and relate. Small adjustments matter. Choosing nourishment over stimulation, rest over productivity, honesty over politeness, these are not minor decisions anymore. They are alignment choices. The shock comes when you realize that spirituality is no longer something you think about, it is something you practice through daily care of your body and nervous system. Your body is not an obstacle to enlightenment, it is the instrument through which it plays. Backhand index pointing right, type I embody my truth to claim this message. As this segment closes, the Arcturian Council offers a perspective meant to steady you as intensity rises. You are not behind, broken, or failing when old patterns resurface briefly. Integration is cyclical, not linear. Awareness deepens through repetition, not avoidance. Each time you notice a pattern more quickly, respond more gently, or recover more fully, you are advancing. The decision made about you does not revoke itself because of momentary forgetfulness. Compassion sustains coherence far more effectively than self-criticism. The shock is realizing that grace, not pressure, is what keeps you aligned. Let this understanding soften how you speak to yourself. Backhand index pointing right, type I choose compassion to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now invites you to confront a truth that reshapes how you understand patience. Patience is no longer about waiting quietly for circumstances to change, it is about staying present while change unfolds through you. This distinction matters. You may feel moments of restlessness, as if something wants to move but has not yet taken form. This is not stagnation, it is gestation. The decision made about you places you in a creative interval where unseen structures are assembling beneath the surface of your life. For many, this phase feels unbearable because there is no external validation to confirm progress. The shock is realizing that your patience is not passive endurance, it is active trust. Every time you resist the urge to force resolution, you allow a more coherent outcome to emerge. This level of patience is rare because it requires self-regulation rather than distraction. You are learning to remain with yourself without abandoning the moment for imagined futures. That capacity alone shifts timelines. Backhand index pointing right, type I remain present to claim this message. The Council now addresses your evolving relationship with meaning. You may notice that explanations which once satisfied you now feel shallow, repetitive, or incomplete. This is not cynicism, it is depth calling for depth. Your consciousness is no longer nourished by surface-level answers. You are being guided to experience truth rather than explain it. This may create discomfort in conversations or environments that prioritize certainty over inquiry. The decision made about you favors lived understanding over borrowed belief. The shock comes when you realize that not having an answer no longer threatens you. Mystery becomes spacious instead of frightening. In this space, curiosity replaces anxiety, and presence replaces opinion. You are learning to let meaning reveal itself through engagement rather than interpretation. This is a sign of advanced awareness, not confusion. Backhand index pointing right, type I allow mystery to claim this message. Another transmission centers on your emotional landscape. Emotions are no longer obstacles to transcend, they are gateways to integration. You may experience feelings more fully now, joy deeper, sadness heavier, tenderness more exposed. This intensity is not instability, it is openness. The decision made about you removes the need for emotional numbing as a coping strategy. You are capable of feeling without drowning. This shocks many who were taught that strength equals suppression. True strength now expresses as capacity, the capacity to feel, process, and remain grounded simultaneously. Emotions move through you faster when welcomed, leaving clarity instead of residue. This emotional fluency enhances discernment and connection. What once overwhelmed you now informs you. Backhand index pointing right type I welcome my emotions to claim this message. The council now turns to the concept of service, which may require reframing. Service is no longer defined by effort, sacrifice, or self-erasure. Those models are outdated. Your service emerges naturally from alignment. When you are coherent, regulated, and present, your influence is efficient. This may challenge inherited beliefs that worth must be earned through struggle. The decision made about you removes the need to prove value. You contribute by being stable in unstable times, by responding consciously where others react, by choosing integrity when shortcuts appear tempting. The shock is realizing that your quiet consistency does more than dramatic intervention ever could. Service is no longer something you do, it is something you radiate. Backhand index pointing right type I serve through alignment to claim this message. As this segment of the transmission settles, the Arcturian Council offers a final stabilizing insight for this phase. You are learning to trust yourself without constant reassurance. External confirmation will appear less frequently, not because you are unsupported, but because you are becoming self-referential. This can feel disorienting at first, like walking without handrails. Yet this is exactly how inner authority matures. The decision made about you includes independence from perpetual validation. When you act from coherence, you will feel a quiet yes in your body, even if the world remains silent. The shock is realizing that this inner affirmation is enough. Let it guide you gently forward. Backhand index pointing right type I trust myself to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now directs your attention to a subtle but transformative recalibration, your relationship with time. For much of your life, linearity has dominated your perception. Yesterday dictated today, and today dictated tomorrow. The decision made about you interrupts that sequence. You are now being asked to operate within both linear and nonlinear timelines simultaneously. Events that feel urgent may ultimately be insignificant, while moments that appear minor can carry disproportionate influence. The shock is realizing that your schedule, your plans, and even your sense of late or early are being rewritten energetically. This does not remove responsibility, it reframes it. You are learning to sense when action is required and when patience serves higher outcomes. This shift also opens access to intuitive timing, where decisions made from inner alignment produce ripple effects that far surpass what could be achieved through sheer effort. Your nervous system may resist this at first, clinging to familiar measures of productivity and success. Expect moments of confusion, doubt, and even irritation as your perception of causality adjusts. The Council emphasizes that mastery in this phase is less about controlling time and more about flowing with it while retaining focus. Awareness of cycles, synchronicities, and energetic windows will become a critical skill, and the shock comes when you recognize that missing deadlines in the old sense no longer carries the consequences it once did. Instead, alignment determines outcomes. The recalibration requires subtle attention, self-discipline, and trust, yet it also liberates you from rigid frameworks that previously constrained your growth. The energy you cultivate now is designed to operate in multiple temporal layers, allowing you to influence realities before they manifest externally. This is a profound power, reserved for those who can hold presence while navigating uncertainty. Backhand index pointing right type I align with time to claim this message. The Council now brings your focus to communication, both internal and external. Words have always carried weight, but in your current activation, their energetic resonance is magnified. Casual thoughts, self-criticism, and habitual language now propagate outcomes faster than before. The decision made about you amplifies the influence of your internal dialogue. Your self-talk is no longer private, as it interacts with your field, shaping experiences you attract and the clarity of your perception. This may feel startling because what once seemed harmless now carries visible energetic consequence. External communication is equally amplified. Conversations, even mundane exchanges, ripple through networks in ways you may not immediately perceive. The shock comes when you notice how minor statements or decisions reverberate with unexpected intensity, creating opportunities or challenges seemingly overnight. You are being guided to exercise precision in speech and thought, cultivating alignment before expression. Silence or careful intention may now be more powerful than action. The Council emphasizes that energy precedes material reality. Coherence produces measurable outcomes, while scattered or reactive communication introduces friction. You may also notice that people respond differently to you, either more sensitively or more defensively, because your field no longer tolerates energetic inconsistency. The recalibration challenges your old habits of reactive conversation, persuasion, or manipulation, revealing that integrity in thought and word accelerates your evolution. This phase requires patience, observation, and discipline. The shock is recognizing that mastery is not about producing visible results in the traditional sense, but about maintaining resonance that guides reality in subtle yet undeniable ways. Your ability to hold intention without forcing manifestation becomes a key skill. Backhand index pointing right. Type I communicate with integrity to claim this message. The Council now brings forward an understanding about energy exchange. You may have unconsciously given your power to others, believing this to be an act of generosity, service, or love. That pattern is shifting. The decision made about you now strengthens energetic sovereignty. Your presence alone exerts influence, making excessive giving unnecessary and even detrimental if it compromises your field. The shock comes when you realize that you are no longer required to overextend yourself to be valuable or loving. True generosity now arises from presence, stability, and grounded awareness. Interactions must balance exchange, not demand sacrifice. Those who were previously reliant on your energy may resist this recalibration, creating tension, disappointment, or conflict. This is not personal, it is a recalibration of resonance. You are learning to give authentically while maintaining boundaries, ensuring that your contribution enhances rather than diminishes your power. The Council emphasizes that energy is finite and that stewardship of your own field is foundational to any form of service. The shock is also internal. You may feel guilt or doubt at asserting limits because you were conditioned to believe overextension equals virtue. Let this discomfort teach discernment. This shift marks a new level of maturity in your journey, where energetic alignment takes precedence over approval, and presence supersedes effort. This recalibration allows you to engage with the world without being depleted, creating space for co-creation instead of unconscious sacrifice. Backhand index pointing right. Type I honor my energy to claim this message. The Council now focuses on your sensory awareness, which is expanding in subtle but profound ways. You may notice heightened perception of sound, light, textures, and emotional undercurrents in others. This is part of the activation that positions you as a stabilizing presence in chaotic fields. The decision made about you includes the expansion of your awareness to detect misalignment in environments, collective consciousness, and interpersonal dynamics before it manifests externally. The shock comes when you realize that sensory overload is not a weakness, it is a recalibration indicator. Your nervous system is learning to differentiate between signals that require response and background noise that can be ignored. This heightened perception may manifest as intuitive insights, spontaneous knowing, or sudden clarity regarding situations that previously confused you. You are also being trained to manage the energetic information without being consumed by it. Meditation, grounding practices, and somatic awareness become essential tools for navigating this expanded field. The shock is realizing that the ability to perceive subtleties places responsibility on you to maintain coherence, even when external circumstances remain chaotic. This phase emphasizes discernment over reaction, observation over judgment. As your sensory awareness sharpens, your capacity to influence reality increases, but so does the need for internal regulation. You are learning to filter energetic information with precision, allowing guidance to flow while maintaining personal stability. The recalibration requires patience, consistency, and self-trust, but it ultimately empowers you to operate effectively in multidimensional fields. Backhand index pointing right. Type I honor my perception to claim this message. As this transmission segment concludes, the Arcturian Council leaves you with a stabilizing principle for integration: presence is your anchor, coherence is your shield, and discernment is your compass. The decision made about you is not a single moment of transformation but an ongoing recalibration, where alignment, integrity, and awareness combine to create measurable impact. You may feel moments of overwhelm, doubt, or resistance as your field expands, but these are natural indicators that growth is occurring. The shock comes when you realize that nothing external defines your power; it resides in the consistent, conscious application of your awareness. Every choice, intention, and boundary now contributes to structural shifts in both your life and the collective field. You are becoming an instrument of higher intelligence, capable of influencing reality in ways invisible to most yet deeply tangible to those attuned to resonance. The Council emphasizes that your path is highly specific, not interchangeable, and that mastery is measured by subtlety, presence, and integrity rather than accolades or recognition. As you continue this journey, remain vigilant in your self-care, patient with your integration, and confident in your guidance. The shock is finally understanding that your evolution is both profound and practical, quiet yet undeniable. This is the stage where wisdom meets embodiment, and where your alignment produces outcomes that ripple across dimensions without effort or fanfare. You are not just awakening, you are remembering your sovereignty and stepping into it fully. Backhand index pointing right. Type I embody sovereignty to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now invites you to reflect on your capacity for discernment. In previous cycles, you may have relied on external authority, advice, or consensus to make decisions. That paradigm has shifted. The decision made about you amplifies your ability to perceive truth through inner knowing. This may feel uncomfortable at first because it requires trusting subtle cues, energetic impressions, and intuitive nudges that are invisible to the logical mind. The shock comes when you realize how often your inner guidance has been correct, even when it contradicted external advice. You may find yourself questioning past choices and recognizing patterns that previously went unnoticed. Discernment now serves as a protective shield as well as a compass, helping you navigate relationships, opportunities, and challenges with precision. The Council emphasizes that exercising discernment is not about judgment, it is about alignment. Learning to differentiate resonance from dissonance becomes critical in this phase, as your energy directly influences outcomes. When you honor your own perception, you create coherence in your field, which allows guidance and synchronicity to flow naturally. The recalibration may feel disorienting at first, as you step away from habitual reliance on external confirmation, but the empowerment that arises is profound. Backhand index pointing right. Type I trust my discernment to claim this message. The Council now addresses your relationship with expansion and contraction. Your energy is no longer linear, it pulses in waves of growth and integration. Expansion feels like sudden clarity, accelerated creativity, or opportunities that appear almost magically. Contraction feels like retreat, reflection, or moments of stillness that seem uncomfortable in a world that values constant action. The decision made about you includes the ability to move fluidly between these states without resistance. The shock comes when you realize that the pace of growth is not determined externally but by your readiness to integrate experiences. Expansion without integration leads to fragmentation, while integration without expansion leads to stagnation. You are being trained to honor both phases equally, understanding that contraction prepares the soil for expansion. As you align with this rhythm, you will notice subtle shifts in timing, perception, and influence that were previously inaccessible. The Council emphasizes that resisting either phase creates friction, while acceptance generates effortless flow. This process may challenge your attachment to results, comfort, or predictability, but it ultimately empowers you to operate at higher frequency and effectiveness. Backhand index pointing right, type I flow with expansion and contraction to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now focuses on your connection to intuition and inner guidance. Your intuitive capacity has always existed, but it is now amplified to a degree that requires conscious calibration. The decision made about you strengthens your ability to sense energetic imbalances, opportunities, and hidden dynamics before they manifest externally. The shock comes when you notice how often your intuition has been guiding you silently, and how much clearer signals become when you consciously honor them. You may find yourself knowing answers before questions are fully asked, or feeling resonance with possibilities without logical explanation. The Council emphasizes that this is not a mystical gift, it is a practical tool for navigating multidimensional life. Calibration requires trust, patience, and daily practice of listening to subtle signals. You may encounter moments of doubt or fear as you learn to act without conventional confirmation, but these are indicators of recalibration rather than error. The process trains you to act from coherence, rather than reaction, allowing your field to align with higher timelines. The shock is realizing that your guidance has always been present, now it simply demands attention and trust. Backhand index pointing right, type I trust my intuition to claim this message. The Council also brings attention to your relationship with responsibility. Responsibility is no longer a burden, it is a framework for empowerment. The decision made about you redefines responsibility as conscious action rather than obligation or guilt. You may feel moments of tension as old habits of overcommitting, people-pleasing, or self-sacrifice surface. The shock comes when you realize that true responsibility lies in maintaining alignment, presence, and energetic integrity. Boundaries, discernment, and self-care are not optional, they are essential components of responsible action. By honoring your field, you ensure that your contributions are sustainable, impactful, and aligned with higher intelligence. This phase teaches you that responsibility does not require drama, overwork, or constant vigilance. It requires awareness and intentionality. The recalibration may initially feel counterintuitive because it challenges old conditioning, but it ultimately provides freedom and clarity. By embracing this new understanding, you create a foundation for long-term coherence, influence, and service that is aligned with both personal and collective evolution. Backhand index pointing right, type I embrace conscious responsibility to claim this message. As this final segment of the transmission concludes, the Arcturian Council leaves you with a grounding principle to carry forward: presence is power, coherence is influence, and awareness is sovereignty. The decision made about you is ongoing, layered, and multidimensional, affecting not just your current experience but the subtle energetic ripples you create across timelines. You may feel moments of fatigue, uncertainty, or overwhelm as integration deepens, but these are natural indicators of expansion, not failure. The shock is realizing that your evolution does not require perfection, external approval, or relentless effort. It requires conscious attention, self-trust, and compassionate action. By embodying your alignment in thought, word, and deed, you become a stabilizing force in both your personal field and the collective. The Council emphasizes that your presence alone radiates coherence, influencing realities in ways both visible and invisible. The final truth for this transmission is clear: sovereignty is not earned externally, it is remembered and practiced internally. As you move forward, remain attentive to your alignment, honor your field, and trust your innate guidance. You are now stepping fully into the realization that your energy, choices, and awareness create measurable impact across multiple dimensions. Backhand index pointing right, type I embody my sovereignty fully to claim this message.